saga. It's 3 books in the series.
Say what?
There's 3 books in this series.
3? Oh,
this
man.
Is book 1 of the Facade saga.
3?
What is it?
I got some catching up to do.
Yeah,
I haven't read the second one. What's the second one titled?
This one was published in 2012.
This one? This one? No.
Yeah, Amazon doesn't have it in stock and doesn't know when it will get back in stock.
2012. What's today? 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay. Huh.
But on my YouTube audiobooks, I can't find this book in audiobooks.
Yeah. What's the name of the second one?
I don't know. I have to look it back up.
I don't think I've read it. Okay. All right. Chapter 3. There are a terrible lot of lies going around the world, and the worst of it is, half of them are true. Sir Winston Churchill. The makeup of our country's far-right militia groups is not so easily categorized. The young auburn-haired woman, smartly dressed in a cream-colored mock tunic dress, explained to her audience as a slide projector whirred and clicked, producing the next image. Militia groups are actually made up of a variety of sub-movements, including apocalyptic, Bible-thumping cultists like David Koresh, constitutionalists, tax protesters, and more reasonable Christians enamored with the militia's conspiratorial worldview. By some estimates, as many as 5 million Americans retain membership in a militia group. At the back of the nearly filled auditorium, a well-dressed couple listened quietly from where they stood. The speaker continued her lecture, which had turned toward a denunciation of mixing politics with religion. "She's going a little overtime," the man commented as he straightened his tie. "The crowd doesn't seem to mind," his companion noted, arms folded across her chest. "She certainly doesn't take any prisoners. Check out the slide." The man shook his head. The screen featured a caricature of Pat Robertson, complete with the insignia of the Third Reich on his upper arm. "I'd give anything to see the good undersecretary face off with her. She's brutal," the man noted, his lips slightly upturned in a suppressed grin. The woman nodded. "My own suspicion," the speaker continued, "is that if you eliminated the so-called born-again Christians from these groups, they'd collapse overnight. Their leaders are the ones who give intellectual weight, and I use the term loosely, to a good deal of militia ideology. They cloak hate and white supremacy in respectable garb and sell it to disgruntled Americans who believe in the myth of a Christian America." The lecture lasted a few more minutes, the mostly late teenage audience politely applauding at its conclusion. The couple began to move toward the front of the auditorium against the flow of the sizable crowd. They waited as she answered a few questions put to her by an audience member and then approached. "Good afternoon, Dr. Kelly," the man said, extending his hand. The speaker shook it, as well as his partners. "You two are with the Bureau, right?" she asked with a plastic grin. "Well, we do work for the government," answered the woman. "Are we that transparent?" "Let's just say I'm getting used to it. I've worked for the FBI on a few assignments, and I always seem to be contacted like this. Never a phone call or a lunch invitation, which is just as well, mind you. Always popping up after lectures or classes. Is that somewhere in the training manual for dramatic effect, maybe?" "We won't take much of your time, Doctor. We're here to present you another assignment." "You're here to present an assignment. I think it's more polite to say offer." "You'd be correct if that's what it was," the woman remarked curtly. Dr. Kelly eyed them suspiciously for a moment. "Well then, no thank you. Don't get the idea that I'm not grateful, but I really don't need the work." "Oh," the man said in feigned surprise. "How can that be? This is your last summer term lecture, and you've been granted a leave of absence for the fall." "I'm afraid you're mistaken. I have several more lectures scheduled for July, and they don't give that much time off to someone who hasn't earned tenure yet." "But the paperwork is in your own briefcase," he answered with a confident smile. Dr. Kelly looked at him incredulously, then opened her case. "Inside the upper sleeve," the man coaxed. She pulled a manila envelope from the case, opened it, scrutinized the contents, a look of puzzled concern creasing her face. "The university letterhead is quite attractive," she demanded, startled. "The university letterhead is quite attractive," the man's partner noted in feigned admiration. "But the dean really ought to improve his penmanship." "What's going on here?" she demanded, startled. We have a job for you. Your presence on a particular project is a very high priority. I don't like being manipulated, but you certainly don't mind being sought out. Dr. Kelly, the female agent, jumped in before the professor could respond. Your reputation has preceded you and is no doubt well deserved, but you'll be wise to be less hostile. You may even be glad you've been selected. Is that so? Dr. Kelly angrily slammed her briefcase shut. She took a step past them. You two can just go to hell. The male agent grabbed her arm tightly. Apparently, we haven't been clear. His partner took another manila envelope from her purse. Get your hands off me, she snapped, her green eyes ablaze. Not until you see this, the woman said, handing her the envelope. The man released his grip. I'm not looking at anything. The only thing I'm going to do is walk out of here, and if either one of you touches me again, I'll scream. If you're interested in keeping your academic career, you'll want to see the contents of that envelope, the man said, blocking her path. Personally, if you want to throw away tenure, not to mention any hope of ever securing another appointment, it's your business. Take the envelope, or you might as well go back to your office and start packing. The young woman flushed once more with anger, and she ripped the envelope from the agent's hands. She opened it and pulled out a small stack of papers and began reading. Her complexion paled as she flipped hurriedly through each sheet. None of these accusations are true. Of course not, the man agreed pleasantly, but you'll never be able to prove otherwise. We've manufactured a paper trail in support of what you're reading. Now, you can either come with us back to your apartment, or we can mail a copy of what you're holding to your department chair. It's your choice. This is blackmail. Of course, he agreed again. But do you honestly think that we'd be so upfront about it if there was any chance it wouldn't work? You were right when you pegged us as working for the feds, but we're considerably higher than the Bureau. You have no idea who or what you're dealing with. The young lecturer stared at them in disbelief, but recovered quickly. You know, teaching at Georgetown has some advantages, one of which is getting to know some powerful people. Ah, yes, the man answered. You must be referring to the distinguished senator on the university's board, whom, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you met at your department's Christmas party last year. Well, yes, she confirmed. How did we know? Oh, come on, Professor, the woman said with a smirk. Do you think our choices for important projects are made up in a few days? You've been closely surveilled for months. In fact, the senator's attendance and interest in your career aren't an accident. The senator was paid for his services, as usual. If you don't believe us, call him right now. The woman reached into her purse, drew out a cell phone, and offered it to the stunned scholar. The three stood in silent confrontation. The young woman inserted the pages back into the envelope with a sigh of resignation. Let's go, she muttered, pushing by them, swearing under her breath.